Well, hello students. I hope you all are in good health. So what we are going to start today is chapter number 2 of your class 11th biology, and this chapter is biological classification. Okay. Now, before starting, let's see some historical aspects of it, which will cover the introduction part of this whole chapter. To start with, we have already seen the process of taxonomy, systematics, okay, classification, taxonomical aids, the taxonomical hierarchy. We have understood why there is a need of taxonomy in the previous chapter, that is chapter number 1. Okay. Now, after knowing taxonomy, we know that there are several taxonomists which are trying to classify the organisms into different taxon to ease the process of studying the entire biodiversity of our planet. They are helping us to learn about them, to memorize them, to name them. Okay. Now, this whole process of biological classification is very, very old. Okay. In fact, it is as old as the biology itself. Okay. To further add to it, the whole biology, the documented biology, started with the classification. Okay. So it is pretty old, and let's see. So the first scientist, not scientist, rather philosopher, Greek philosopher, whose name is Aristotle. Many of you know him. Uh, I think most of you know him, okay, because of his works in different fields of science. Okay, so these were the early philosophers. One of the greatest philosopher, Aristotle. He also worked in the field of biology, and he worked around 382 BC. What he did in biology is he classified plants and animals into groups on the basis of certain features. Okay, that's what we are going to see here. He classified plants in herbs, shrubs, and trees, and that was primarily on the basis of their height. Okay, great. So he is he classified plants into herbs, shrubs, and trees. Not only this, he also classified animals. Okay, and he classified them into two groups, that is Enaima and Anaima. Okay, now let us understand. Enaima are the animals having red blood, or you can say red-blooded animals, whereas Anaima are without red blood. Okay, so what Aristotle did is he classified all the animals into two categories: animals with red blood, Enaima; animals without red blood, Anaima. Okay, great. And for this contribution, he is regarded as father of biology. Okay, in fact, he was the first to give us a documented uh, book or documentation of biology. Okay, so father of biology. Also, Aristotle is known as father of zoology. याद रखिएगा इस बात को. Father of biology and father of zoology. Both credit goes to Aristotle. Okay. Now the next person is Theophrastus. Okay. Now Theophrastus is also a Greek philosopher and a great disciple of Aristotle. Okay. So he is like Aristotle. Okay. Like his mentor, like his teacher. Theophrastus also worked in biology, and he worked around 370 to 285 BC, that is before Christ. And what he did was he mainly worked in the classification of plants. He classified plants in annuals, biennials, and perennials. Okay, so just like his uh, teacher Theophrastus uh, carried out the legacy of his teacher and classified plants into annuals, biennials, and perennials. And this is on the basis of the lifespan of the plant. Okay, great. And that's why Theophrastus is regarded as father of botany. Now, this whole thing he documented and he published in a book called Historia Plantarum. याद रखिएगा इसको, Historia Plantarum. Okay, great. So father. Now the third scientist we are going to talk about is Carolus Linnaeus. Okay. Now Carolus Linnaeus, whose actual name was Carl von Linne or Linne. Okay, Carl von Linne, but later in Latin he renamed himself as Carolus Linnaeus. Okay. Now Carolus Linnaeus is also known as father of taxonomy because he has great contribution in the field of taxonomy, and in fact he is the first taxonomist, the first scientist who classified organisms in a scientific way, in a proper way. Okay, great. Let's see. Now, as I said, Carolus Linnaeus is father of taxonomy. He proposed two kingdom classification. Okay, and as per this two kingdom classification, the entire living world is divided into two kingdoms, that is Plantae and Animalia. Okay, so what he did, he put all photosynthetic organisms into plant kingdom and all non-photosynthetic organisms into animal kingdom. That is all plants, algae, blue-green algae, that animal. The issue with the two kingdom classification given by Carolus Linnaeus was that all the organisms, whether it is prokaryotic or eukaryotic, whether it is unicellular or multicellular, they have been grouped together. Okay, so plants, animals, everything, eukaryotic, prokaryotic, okay, both have been grouped into both plants and animal kingdom. That was the problem. Another problem is uh, organisms like euglena, which were photosynthetic, okay, but not having cell wall. They're moving without light. They were showing heterotrophic nutrition. So they are like plants as well as animals. Where to keep them, in plant kingdom or animal kingdom? So this was the problem of two kingdom classification proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. Therefore, there is another scientist named Ernst Haeckel. Okay, he came and he proposed a three kingdom classification in 1886. Okay, so this three kingdom classification says that the entire living world should be classified into three kingdoms. Okay, that is obviously Animalia and Plantae were there. The third kingdom introduced was Protista. Okay, so Protista was the third kingdom which was introduced in three kingdom classification by Ernst Haeckel. In fact, the term Protista was given by Ernst Haeckel himself. Okay, now what he did is he put all the unicellular organisms, okay, as well as all the debated organisms for whom it was not clear whether they should be in plants or animals. He put them into Protista. Okay, so what you see is actually he treated this new kingdom called Protista as a dustbin, right? Whatsoever you are failed to understand whether they should be under plant kingdom or animal kingdom, you threw them into Protista. That's why Protista, this kingdom Protista, is also said as a dustbin kingdom. Or later, as we started learning more and more taxonomy, we realized that there are organisms in Protista which should not be in Protista, rather they should be in some other kingdom, right? Or in some other group. And that's why you have to remove them from there and rename them, or redo their taxonomy, redo their classification. And that's why this new kingdom, Protista, is also known as Kingdom of Changing Taxonomy. So, Kingdom of Changing Taxonomy. Protista is known as kingdom of changing taxonomy. The plant kingdom, it consists of all multicellular and photosynthetic organisms as per this Ernst Haeckel. Animalia, again, it is consisted of multicellular and non-photosynthetic organisms. Okay. Now, after Ernst Haeckel came Copeland. Okay, and Copeland, he introduced four kingdom classification in 1958, and as per this four kingdom classification, the living world is divided into four kingdoms, that is Mycota, Protista, Metaphyta and Metazoa. Okay, now as you can see, Mycota is the new kingdom added here. Okay, and Mycota is the kingdom which will contain all prokaryotic organisms. Okay, later this will be known as Monera. So Mycota. Protista remained, all unicellular eukaryotic organisms are there. Metaphyta is the name for plantae kingdom. Plantae has been renamed here as Metaphyta. Meta because it contains all multicellular organisms, and phyta for plants. Okay. Similarly, Metazoa is for Animalia. So it is renamed. So as per this Copeland classification, four kingdom classification, the four kingdoms are Mycota, Protista, Metaphyta and Metazoa. It is not very important, so just have a glimpse. You don't have to really mug it up. Great. Now, after Copeland came R.H. Whittaker. Okay, and R.H. Whittaker in 1969 gave five kingdom classification. So R.H. Whittaker is an American taxonomist, and he introduced the five kingdom classification. Now, as per this five kingdom classification, the five kingdoms that were introduced were Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Okay. Now, this five kingdom classification was based on the following characters. Okay, so he did this classification on the basis of these particular features or characters, and these features are, first one is cell type. Okay, cell type as in whether the cell is prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Okay, then was the cell wall, so whether there is cell wall present or absent. If present, it is cellulosic or non-cellulosic. So these were the basis of R.H. Whittaker classification. The third basis was nuclear membrane, whether the nuclear membrane is present or absent. The fourth one is body organization, that is whether the organism is unicellular or multicellular. If multicellular, whether it has a tissue level of organization, or the tissue unites to form organ, or if the organs form the organ system. Okay, so body organization, or you can say the complexity of the body structure. Okay, now the fifth one is mode of nutrition, as in the organism is autotrophic or heterotrophic. If heterotrophic, whether it shows holozoic nutrition or saprotrophic nutrition or parasitic nutrition, what kind of nutrition it shows. And on the basis of nutrition, it can be having particular ecological role, whether it can be, or it can be producer, it can be consumer, or it can be decomposer. Correct. So these were the basis of, or these were the characters on the basis of which R.H. Whittaker classified the entire living world into five kingdoms. Okay, so R.H. Whittaker classified this living world into Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. So these are the five kingdoms he classified them into. Monera contains all prokaryotic organisms, that is bacteria. Protista contains all unicellular organisms. Only exception is yeast. Fungi, all multicellular, non-photosynthetic, or you can say achlorophyllous. A means no, chlorophyllous means chlorophyll containing. So fungi are multicellular, non-photosynthetic or achlorophyllous decomposer organisms. Okay, so they are decomposers. The nutrition they show is saprotrophic. Okay, whereas plants are multicellular photosynthetic organisms, so they show autotrophic nutrition and they are producers, whereas Animalia contains multicellular non-photosynthetic organisms which show heterotrophic holozoic nutrition and hence they are consumers. Okay, great. If you see NCERT, you will find this table. Okay, so this table is nothing but it shows all the different 5 characters on the basis of which R.H. Whittaker did this classification or gave the 5 kingdom classification, right? Cell type, you can see in Monera the cell type is prokaryotic, and in rest any other, that is Protista, fungi, plantae or Animalia, the cell type is eukaryotic. So only Monera is a prokaryotic kingdom, rest all are eukaryotes. Cell wall in Monera, cell wall is present and it is non-cellulosic. It is made up of polysaccharide and amino acids, which is actually known as peptidoglycans. Okay, peptido because amino acid will unite to form protein, and glycan for polysaccharide. Okay, great. Whereas if you see Protista, the cell wall may be present, may not be. Okay, and if it will be present, it will be made up of calcium or silica, things like that. We will see in detail when we will be discussing about kingdom Protista. Okay, when you see fungi, the cell wall will be present, but again it will be non-cellulosic. It is made up of chitin. It is a special kind of molecule. When we talk about plantae, they have cell wall made up of cellulose, and in Animalia there is no cell wall. Cell wall is absent. Okay, great. If you talk about nuclear membrane, obviously in monerans, which are prokaryotes, and prokaryotes do not have nuclear membrane, they have primitive nucleus. Okay, so nuclear membrane is absent, and in all eukaryotic cells you will find true nucleus having nuclear membrane. So rest all the kingdoms have nuclear membrane. Body organization, Monera only cellular, that is they are made up of a single cell, they are unicellular. Protista unicellular. Fungi, plantae and Animalia are multicellular. However, if we see, fungi is multicellular, but it has only loose tissue organization. The tissue are not going to make organ or organ system, right? In plants, the tissue is there, tissue organized to form organ, but there is no further organization into organ system. Whereas in Animalia, cells unite to form tissue, tissue unites to form organ, and then organ unite to form organ system like digestive system, respiratory system, and so on. And those systems then work with each other to form the organism. Okay, great. When we are going to mode of nutrition, what we see, the Monera have autotrophic nutrition, they have chemotrophic nutrition, they have heterotrophic nutrition, they have saprotrophic nutrition, they have parasitic nutrition. So monerans can have all modes of nutrition. In fact, kingdom Monera shows the greatest diversity in the mode of nutrition. Okay, when we are talking about Protista, they can show autotrophic nutrition or heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, so they also have both autotrophic and heterotrophic. However, their diversity in terms of nutrition is not as high as monerans have or kingdom Monera have. Why? Because in autotrophic nutrition they can only show photosynthetic. They cannot say they do not have chemo autotrophic. Okay, this we will talk in detail later, okay, when we are going to discuss each and every kingdom. Particularly when we will be discussing about Monera, I will talk about the photoautotroph, chemoautotroph, lithotrophs, and so on. Great. When we are talking about fungi, so fungi have heterotrophic and saprotrophic or parasitic mode of nutrition. Okay, so they have heterotrophic, and within heterotrophic they have saprotrophic or parasitic type of nutrition. When we talk about plantae, they have autotrophic nutrition, and that is photosynthetic. When we talk about Animalia, it is heterotrophic, and within heterotrophic they show either holozoic or saprotrophic nutrition. Okay, so just have a basic look on this table. Anyway, when we are going to cover or finish this whole unit, the first unit, you all will be having a fair detailed idea of what we have spoken in this table. Great. So what I am doing here is I am making a diagram to show how uh, these five kingdoms have developed. Okay, so this diagram is on the basis of evolution pattern. Okay, so first of all, the animal or the organisms that evolved were monadans. Okay, from monera developed Protista, and then this Protista diversified into three kingdoms, that is fungi, plantae, and animalia. Okay, now see the red arrow shows the pattern of evolution. So first came monera, from monera to, so monera were prokaryotic cells. From prokaryotic cells, eukaryotic unicellular organisms developed, that is Protista. And then this Protista diversified into three groups to form fungi, plantae, and animalia. Okay, now see how this classification was done. Monera to Protista. This is on the basis of cell type, correct? Now, monera, prokaryotic cell, and rest all are eukaryotic cells. From Protista to all three kingdoms, it is done on the basis of body organization. Why? Protista is unicellular, while the fungi, plantae, animalia are multicellular. Okay, and further the diversification or the classification is done on the basis of cell wall and mode of nutrition. Okay, one thing also we talked about is nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane is nothing but it can be incorporated in cell type. Okay, because the prokaryotic cells will do not be having the nuclear membrane, that is nuclear membrane will be absent. In eukaryotes it will be present. Okay, so this is how they have developed, and this is a cladogram or cladistics to show the evolutionary pattern of all these five kingdoms. Okay, great. So this was five kingdom classification. Now the five kingdom classification is the most accepted one, and this is what we follow today. But this does not mean that we have not improved and we do not have any other system of classification. See, uh, even the five kingdom classification has its own limitations. Okay, and to overcome these limitations, there is another classification proposed. Okay, and in many cases we follow it. Okay, however, the most favored one and the most accepted one is five kingdom classification. But what we are going to talk here now is about is what we are going to talk about is Carl Woese. Now Carl Woese proposed the six kingdom classification, or it is also known as three domain classification. Okay, now according to this classification, the entire living world is classified into three domains. Okay, now you will ask, what are these domains? These domains are taxonomical category above kingdoms. Okay, they are even above kingdoms. Okay, so Carl Woese gave three domain classification, that is all living world should be divided into three domains, and these domains are archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Okay, now see, archaea and bacteria are both prokaryotic, while all eukaryotic organisms has been placed in the third domain called eukarya. Now this classification or this division is done on the basis of 16S rRNA sequence. Okay, now 16S rRNA, what it is? Well, you know about ribosomes. So ribosomes have smaller and larger subunits. One of the subunit is the smaller subunit is called 16S, and this 16S ribosomal subunit is made up of RNA and proteins. Okay, now the RNA which makes ribosome are called ribosomal RNA and abbreviated as rRNA. Now, on the basis of the rRNA sequence, Carl was proposed to classify the entire living world into three domains, that is archaea, bacteria and eukarya. Okay, so the archaea is then divided into kingdoms, and in archaea domain there is only one kingdom, and this kingdom is named as archaebacteria. Okay, so archaebacteria is a new kingdom here. The bacteria domain is further divided into only one kingdom, and that is kingdom Monera. Okay, so what is happening is, in five kingdom classification, the kingdom Monera contains both archaebacteria and bacteria, that is eubacteria. As per Carl Wu's six kingdom classification, the archaebacteria and eubacteria has been separated into two different domains, that is archaea and bacteria, and have different kingdoms as archaebacteria and Monera respectively. The further classification is same as five kingdom classification, that is the domain eukarya is divided into four kingdoms, that is Protista, fungi, plantae and animalia. Okay, so this is six kingdom classification or three domain classification by Carl Woese. Okay, so what we saw today in this video lecture is about biological classification. We talked about Aristotle, we talked about Theophrastus, we talked about Carolus Linnaeus two kingdom classification, then Ernst Haeckel three kingdom classification, Copeland's four kingdom classification, R.H. Whittaker five kingdom classification, and finally the six kingdom classification by Carl Woese, which is also known as three domain classification. Okay, so this is all about the historical aspects or the classification of the living world. Now, in the subsequent video lecture, what we will be talking about is kingdom Monera. Okay, we will study each and every kingdom in more detail in the subsequent video lectures. Okay, so till then, stay tuned and stay happy. Thank you.